And now it's time for our first panel discussion. All my favorite ladies will be joining this panel. Our first guest is Madhumita Ghosh. Madhumita Ghosh is a poet and editor of anthologies of poetry books for various established and new initiatives. Her poems have been widely published in print, e-books, journals, magazines all over the world. She was shortlisted for Fermoy Poetry Competition Ireland in 2012. She has featured in more than 30 national international anthologies. She also writes short stories. She has authored 3 poetry books titled For All You Lovely People, Pebbles on the Shore, and Flowing with the River. Also, a comprehensive and critical research non-fiction book, William Blake, A Prophet for Mankind, which is a fine reference work for all who are interested in life and works of Blake. Please welcome Madhumita Ghosh. I request Madhumita ma'am to come and join us at the panel, please. Our second guest is Mariam Karim Alawat. Mariam is a pedagogue of French language and literature, freelance editor, and a writer of fiction for children and adults. Her first novel, My Little Boat, was nominated for the IMPAC International Award 2005 and the Hutch Crossword Award. Her second novel, entitled The Street of Mist, was longlisted for the Man Asian Prize 2009. Her play, The Betrayal of Selva Mary, was shortlisted for the Hindu Metroplus Playwright Award 2010. Her play, Fractal's Search for the Real, was longlisted for the Hindu Metroplus Playwright Award 2011. Her children's musical about street children, A Bag Full of Dreams, was performed in Delhi, November 2012, with music by well-known author and musician Peggy Mohan. She has published a number of children's books and contributed to anthologies available in several Indian languages. Please welcome Mariam Karim Ahlawat. I request Mariam to come and join us at the panel. Our third guest is Aditi Rao. Aditi Rao is a writer, educator, and dreamer. Her poems has appeared in Four Quarters magazine, Muse India, Cha, and other publications, and her essays have been featured in People Building Peace 2.0, Moments That Speak, Images and Stories of Connection, and Info Change India. Her first full-length collection of poetry, The Fingers Remember, will be released by Yoda Press in 2014. Aditi has been a fellow at Sangam House International Writers Residency, was one of the winners of the 2012 Encountering Poetry contest organized by Cha, and received in 2011 Srinivas Rayaparol Prize for Poetry. Please welcome Aditi Rao. I request Aditi to come and join us at the panel. To moderate this panel is a person who has been into spirituality for the last 20 years. Earlier, she had her own ashram conducting meditation workshops. After getting married, she maintained a balance between spiritualism and materialism, as they both are essential and inherently the same. She developed all facets of her personality in herself, her gift, and the magic of transformation, which she spreads through inspirational talks and spiritual healings that translates into people finding their soul's purpose, as she found hers. I request Sanjeen Sahni, angelic emissary of Butterfly and the Bee or Literary Angels, to take over from here.
Thank you, Sumit. And good afternoon, all you lovely people. It's great to have everybody here on the occasion of Women's Day. Welcome, Madhumita, Mariam ma'am, and Aditi. So today, since the topic is women's empowerment, and we keep upon talking about gender equality, so I would just like to say something about it so that we can take it forth. In Indian society, we have often seen that on one side we worship women as goddess Lakshmi, goddess Saraswati, and on the other side women are discriminated, abused, subjugated. So what do we actually, as women, mean by the word of empowerment or gender equality? So we can start with that.
Yes. Is this on? Good afternoon, everybody. This is a very special day, and as I believe that there cannot be one single day earmarked to be called Women's Day. Every day should be called Women's Day, because without a woman, there is nothing. A woman becomes the mother, and without a woman, generations would just cease to exist. So a woman is a very special person. As a woman also, I'm saying, I am also indebted to a woman. I'm proud and happy to be a woman. And if there is an afterlife, and there are many lives, in every life I would just love to be reborn as a woman, never as a man. And on this special day, I congratulate every single woman here, every single woman in my life. And I take this opportunity to thank every man in my life, because it is the man who makes a woman complete. I am not I would not have been me what I am. My life would never have been complete without this very special men in my life. So thank you, all special men in the lives of all special women. Thank you. Now to come to the topic, women's empowerment, it is absolutely necessary that the woman becomes empowered today. In fact, woman needed to be empowered from the very beginning, but sadly it was not so. Women have been oppressed, repressed, dominated, domineered, and kept in the shadows for always. Not only in India, not only in the rural areas, but everywhere in the world. A woman may be empowered not by a man. It cannot be given. A woman has to empower herself. That is what I believe. It is the inherent confidence in her which will make her the woman in society. She may be educated, she may be uneducated, she may be old, she may be young, she may be urban, she may be rural, but it is an inherent strength that makes her the woman, that makes her special to some people in her life, that makes her life a very meaningful one. So she needs to be confident of herself, of her inner strength. That is what I believe.
Thank you, Madhumita ma'am. I think we got two things from there which were very important, that a man is not required for women empowerment, but she also said, which was very important, a man makes you complete as well. So it is not sort of gender equality vis-a-vis a man.
No,
it is just empowering yourself.
A man and a woman, men and women, they complement each other. No one is complete without the other. A man is nothing without a woman. A woman's life is meaningless without a man.
So this is the positive side of it. We see it all the time. Sorry, ma'am, would you like to take forth from here?
Thank you. I've got quite a few things to say. I know this is a poetry seminar, but I'll just give some very practical things. Since today is International Women's Day, obviously of the UN, I'd like to underline here the UNDP Millennium Goals for Women, what they consider. National and global efforts to integrate gender equality and women's empowerment into poverty reduction, democratic governance, crisis prevention and recovery, environment and sustainable development. Ensure that women have a real voice in all governance institutions, in the judiciary and the civil services, in private sector and civil society, so that they can participate equally with men in public dialogue and decision making and influence the decisions that will determine the future of their families and countries. I thought it was important to underline over here what Women's Day is actually, what are the goals for women that the UN points out. And I know it's not very poetic, but to say that what is empowerment, here I would like to address all women and all men on what is empowerment. If we see the society as it is today, I would like all of you, especially the women, to maybe close your eyes and think about whether this world, the way it is organized, is the right world in which women can be empowered. So let us look at the things which, just close your eyes and think. I mean, you don't have to close your eyes. But just think about what might be empowerment mean to you in this kind of system. Is empowerment possible in the way that our society is structured? Are we going to have, does empowerment mean survival within the same parameters that are set today? The same goals that are set for men? Is that what is empowerment? Or do we want to change the social structure, the values, the morality, the relationships to the environment? Environment is very important, I think, when you speak of women. It is extremely important that we align ourselves with the natural environment. Not only women, I think men too, but since we're speaking of women here. And so what are the things that you might see differently? The class structures, the family structures, the power structures, medical treatments, and urbanization, commercial organizations. These are the things we should look at. Do we want them exactly in the same way? Is empowerment going to come if these structures remain the same? I would like to ask all of you, if all of you have a piece of paper or something, would you like to write what you see different in the world in which women can be empowered? Because I personally think that the entire structures, the social structures, the commercial, the economic structures, are totally against empowerment for women. It is not just in the mind. It is not just because men should think differently or women should think differently. It is the way that economics functions, the power relations function, that keep women from actually achieving what they might achieve under a different, completely different structure. So could you just think for a moment, I mean, I would like later on for everybody to be able to say that what they would envisage in a world where women can be empowered, and what does empowerment mean? Like one poet said, let her be, you know. And I would like also one very small thing over here which I got from Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak's work, is that when we speak of empowerment within, say for example, the patriarchy, which is the system which we all accepted. We never question the patriarchy when we talk in our poetry and when we talk, of course, very radical feminists. I'm sure Aditi Rao does. But and normally we don't think about the whole structure as being against your ability to empower yourself. So here Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak has said, you must know your enemy so well that you can borrow the structures of his discourse. This is in fact our relationship to the patriarchy. We have borrowed the structures, we can only think within those structures, the social structures, the economic structures which have been created by the male-dominated and patriarchal systems. And poetry is an excellent way of actually subverting those structures. But how in our own lives, in our own, we may work in a multinational, we may be homemakers, how do you see it differently? How will you see your own home structured differently? You have bedrooms, you have a dining room, you have a kitchen. What is the time you spend? How would you see your own home structured differently? You know, and there's one, since this is poetry, if I'm not taking up too much time. Can I read out part of a poem?
Please.
There's a poem by Maya Angelou, whom you all know. And apart from that, it's just that something, it's called Phenomenal Woman. I'm not going to read out the whole thing, but I'll read part of it because I think it might appeal to the poetry lovers over here. Pretty woman, wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, in the span of my hips, the stride of my step, and the curve of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally woman, that's me. I walk into a room, just as cool as you please, and to a man the fellows stand or fall to their knees, and then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. It's the fire in my eyes and the flash of my teeth and the swing of my waist and the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me, but they can't touch my inner mystery. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about. I have to talk. I don't have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels and the bend of my hair and the palm of my hand and the need for my care. Phenomenally woman. That's me. Thank you.
can even attempt a full answer to the question of what is empowerment, because I think it's such a big question and such a big word, and I think it's a lot of the things that have already been said. I think some of it is the word empowerment is essentially the gaining of power, right? And we're, like we were just talking about, we are working in a world where there are so many powers, kinds of power. There's economic power, there's political power, there's personal power, there's all of these different things. So I don't think, for me, the answer is neither simply empowerment being about the UN goals, but those are an important part of it. It's not simply for me either about inner strength and confidence, but that's a part of it. As other questions of, if we are talking about inner strength and confidence, then what keeps a lot of women from having that? It's not simply that, oh, they were born without it in a way that men were born with it. So there's also larger sort of social questions of power, the way literature talks about women, the way our religions talk about them, mythology talks about them. So it's a challenging at all those levels for me. It's not one or the other. And so I think it's too big an umbrella for a sort of short response to what is empowerment.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Also, what I think Mariam had an important point there, that it's also about restructuring. You know, we are obviously born into a structure where we are made to think in a very patriarchal way. But I think that makes all the difference, because I think women have made a mark despite of being in all the odds, you know, despite of being in the man's world. I think that's where even the power of women, you know, shows. So yeah, and of course it is a very big word to be summed up into something, you know, 5-minute discussion. But yeah, thank you so much. Also, I would like to know that if we could talk about writing as a channel, as a medium for women empowerment. And of course, writing is a very important channel where for women empowerment, for minorities, for everything. But if, you know, like women as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife, has so many roles to do. So how does one get the time, you know, to sort of, in the hustle bustle of the day, get on with writing? Any tips for all the writers and poets right here?
Which should I answer first? Your first part of your question, or the second part?
The first part first.
What does writing have to do with empowerment, or rather, how is empowerment?
I think pretty much everybody knows that writing is an important channel. So I think
It is a very important channel, of course. And right now, I immediately remembered Kamala Das's poem, An Introduction, where she wrote that. I can't help but write. I don't remember the exact lines, but why does a lion roar? Why does a crow caw? So writing to a writer comes very naturally. And a woman, a free woman at heart, I believe, is a thinker. She has her own opinions. She has her own thoughts and responses to her environment, immediate environment, and the broader environment also. She has her opinions. She might express herself, she might not. So she, in fact, I myself am getting confused. I'm so sorry.
Maybe it is something like writing for a purpose. You know, maybe some women take it
that
up
is
as
another different thing. What I meant to say is that every woman is a thinker, and it is up to her to overcome her shyness and to just express herself. And the second part of the question, being a wife, most women are either wives or mothers or daughters, doing something or the other. So when do they find the time to write? I believe a writer does not have to sit down and write with a pen and paper or with on the keyboard. The writing comes either from the heart or from the intellect or from both. So one doesn't have to really sit down. The writing is done in the mind. A woman can write in her mind while she's cooking, while she's maybe doing the bed, while she's just dusting her furniture or taking her child to school. The idea is there in the head. So the poem or the story or the essay or the
so
article,
it just goes with the flow.
it goes
as
with the
one
flow, and
the
it
daily
is
chores.
formed within. It is just putting down on pen and paper, which is the least laborious or important task, I believe.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you like to recite a poem of yours?
I don't have anything with me right now.
But I think your words were as poetry, so we take it.
If somebody could give me a book, I would have recited. In fact, the book that will be published today, they can give their views. I can recite later.
Mariam ma'am, we can take it forward from there.
Thank you. I think writing, like all art, is activism at a certain level. Painting is activism. When women make, when they do embroidery, and they create things on that, that is also activism. I mean, you never know what you might find in this very beautiful dress of Aditi's. There might be some, you know, if you've seen those things, the Uriya stories which are there, you can find that they're telling a story, and that story some way or the other leads to some kind of insight about what kind of life there is or what kind of structure there is, since we're discussing structures. So I think writing is also activism, but I do believe that aesthetics should not be eschewed. We have to look at aesthetics. When we look at art of any kind, we can't say I just write and I'm going to recite it badly, or I'm going to write it badly, and I'm going to use incorrect things, and then I'm going to say that it is art. No, aesthetics cannot be eschewed. We have to think about it. That's one thing. And where a woman finds the time, being a mother, all women are not only just mothers, you know, some are doctors, some are, and she's right, that it's an internal process that goes on when you write. I cannot think of how many years my novel was going on inside me before I actually wrote it. And I wrote bits of it, you know, on pieces of paper, some poems, something, and so she's absolutely, you know, she hits the nail on the head when she says that. But what about women who are doctors, who are computer engineers, who are civil engineers, who are maybe astronauts? They also have to write. So there are different levels at which you have to make that effort. And I think any part of your personality that's developed just enriches your writing. It's not something that takes away from it. It enriches you. I know it's multitasking, and we say that women are always very good at multitasking. But I think it makes you a more whole and a more realized person. So it's easier. I think it's easier.
Thank you, Mariam.
Thank you so much.
To the first part, about the role of writing and empowerment, again, I think there's different kinds of writing and different kinds of roles. I think right now we're talking specifically about the creative and the poetic. There's report writing is a different role. I think it gives you space to do a lot of challenging and reconstructing of the stories that we grew up with. And I don't just mean the written stories, I mean what we learn about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. I enjoy playing with some of that in my writing, whether it's mythology, whether it's the fairy tales we grew up with. So there's multiple ways of retelling a story, there's multiple ways of claiming a voice where you may not have had it otherwise. But I also want to complicate that by saying that I think it's simplistic, especially in a country like ours, to simply link writing and empowerment when a vast majority of women in our country can't write. So I think we're also, it's easy to slip into a certain middle class idea of empowerment if we make it that, oh, writing equates with, I think there's many kinds of things, and I don't want to, even as a writer, I don't want to make writing the most important.
It's just one of the channels.
And also I think to me it's in some ways more the idea of story, because every culture tells stories, whether it's orally, whether it's writing, whether it's through theatre. And there's many different kinds of reclaimings, and I don't want to give one much more importance than the other, of course. And similarly, I think to the question of time, I feel like on one hand, like she said, it's not just sort of roles within families. Women have multiple roles. I have a full-time job that's got nothing to do with writing, and I have 2 part-time jobs, and I write. But at the same time, I think it's important to me to also be able to dignify that work and say that it's worth it to create time for it, not just that, oh, it'll happen and in the course of doing my everyday life. If that works for somebody, that's totally fine. I'm not trying to condemn that. I'm just saying that it's not just a hobby, it is also a profession. And
It is something like if you like something, then you make time for it also.
Right, and not just like, it's also a profession. It's not just a hobby. And it's important to also dignify it and give it that a woman should have the right to say that, for these 2 hours, I don't want to just be a mom, I want to be a writer and I'm going to write. And so it's important to be able to do that as well.
I think writing is neither a hobby nor a profession. It is second nature to a writer. As a writer myself, I feel a writer when is a compulsive writer. A writer cannot desist from writing. So I as a writer would call it my writing, neither a profession nor a hobby, and I really don't have to make an effort to make time for it. The writing itself writes me.
Yeah, that may be true for you, but I wouldn't generalize that to all writers. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you should treat it one way.
I don't mean just myself. My opinion about writers, I think a writer writing just comes to a writer. A writer can't help but write. When something comes in the mind, when one is inspired to write something, be it a story or the beginning a novel or a poem or anything, an article, I think the writing just comes and one just cannot help but write.
That's what Natalie Sahot calls tropisms.
Yes.
So I think that's what you mean by tropisms. Yeah, that tropisms exist. But you have to organize your time, like, say 1 hour in the morning. Obviously, you have to organize your life for anything.
Yes, that is time management.
Yeah, so
Yes, of course. If you have a passion for something, then you make time for it.
You have to make time even for anything, even to say wash your clothes. You make a certain time, So for writing,
So thank you so much, three of you, for giving such great insights, and all the audience for being so patient. And we would like to end the session with Madhumita ma'am's poem, I the Woman. Please, ma'am.
Before reading the poem, I thank Poets Corner for this book called She. It is a beautiful book. I'm seeing it for the first time today. I thank Authors Press India. I thank Yasin Anwar, Dolly Singh and Sumit Segal. This poem is called I the Woman. Do not call me Shakti. Do not worship me. I was born a disciple to the light, the air, the ever-resonating sounds around me woven, the grinding stone my obelisk of my achievements. In a land far away, cherries blossom, the fields painted in pink smile at me. I talk to a river dancing down, tripping on pebbles. I sit there with you, sing to myself the song of the sky. You never have known my nights of my dreams. We talk, the clock and I, as darkness envelopes me with a light unknown. A yellowed frayed book comes to life to read me. And I laugh to myself a winner's laugh, always defeated for you to win. I am Shakti the power, Srishti the creator, Prakriti the nurturer. See me now before you leave.